to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, powered by FC Cincinnati supporters. Get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at cincysoccertalk@spmt.tv. Now, here is your host, Nick Suberling.
Hey, what's up? Wow, what a start to the last episode of 2017, everybody. Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'm Subs. Glad you're with us this week. We got a good show in store for you. It's the last show of the year, so we're going to look back on what was a tremendous 2017 for FC Cincinnati. So, we're putting out the call early. We want to hear from you. We're opening up the phone lines tonight. The King's Hammer hotline is going to be open, 513-399-KICK. We want to hear from you. What was your favorite memories of 2017? What was your key moments of the year? Your favorite goal, your favorite player? We want to hear from you. 513-399-KICK. Of course, if you're watching us live, you can always hit us up on Facebook. We'll be reading some comments from there as well as YouTube. And you can also tweet us at Cincy Soccer Talk. Our email address, feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Before I could introduce tonight's panel, we've got one piece of business to get to.
Captain.
Hey, we got an episode captain this week, Matt Imholtz. Matt, you give it up for Matt Imholtz wearing the armband tonight for the final episode of the 2017 year. Matt, thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. If you're interested in wearing the armband for an episode of CST, make sure you log on to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, let's welcome in my cast of characters tonight. I'll start with the one and only Boston Brazil. Boston, how you doing, buddy?
It's a beautiful evening, Mr. Watcher Tackles. Not sure if you caught this news today, but Cincinnati turned 229 years old. Happy birthday, Cincinnati. That means that over 2 centuries ago, 11 families and Bill Wolfe arrived on the shores opposite of Licking River and said, "We will settle between these 7 hills and found a city that in exactly 227 years will spawn one of the greatest soccer teams in America."
And you said you had a joke. I didn't realize it was hilarious, Boston. But no, I saw that today on Twitter as well. I did not know that. I also did not know that Cincinnati was not the original name for the town. I thought that was. Of course, I can't remember what it was.
It sounds a lot like Louisville, and I think that's why they changed it.
Yeah, I did remember seeing that today.
Only took
that was
4
close.
years.
Yeah, exactly. No, good to have you with us, Boston. Looking forward to getting your thoughts on the year as a whole for FC Cincinnati. Let's also welcome in the man he referenced just a minute ago, the lone wolf, the Wolfman, Bill Wolfe. Bill, how you doing, buddy?
I was doing okay. I was thinking earlier today on Slack when people were giving Boston crap, and I was going to defend him, but here's the reality, dude. It's like I've got the shirt and you haven't earned it yet. So sorry, inside joke, guys. But no, I'm doing okay. Other than immense frustration from trying to play FIFA Mobile today and having their servers down the entire day. I mean, it's like everybody's on holiday and they're trying to play FIFA Mobile or something.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an inside joke as far as that FIFA Mobile goes. I see everybody amongst CST playing that game. I am not playing that game. I don't know how you guys have all that time on your hands tracking down those FC Cincinnati MLS rumors, guys, because they continue to swirl. And we've gone another week without an announcement, which was made official last week when they said there would be nothing until 2018. So we won't be touching on that a whole lot tonight. But we want to hear from you, though. 513-399-KICK. The one and only Brad Weigel will be joining us. But he's having computer issues, literally as the show started. Everything was going so smoothly until about 4 minutes ago. So we'll hope to get Brad back because he's the one screening our calls. So if you're calling in, you're just going to have to be patient for the time being. So again, that number 513-399-KICK, 513-399-KICK. Bill is wearing a very cool Christmas gift. It's a new CST polo that his wife got him. As I should probably put you on the screen there. The camera angle, you're too close to the camera, so you can't see it, but it looks good. Did you get anything FC Cincinnati related for Christmas this year, Bill?
Almost everything FC related or FCC related. Ooh.
You're quickly drawing the ire of me there with the FC there.
I know that was didn't quite get the second C out. But anyway, no, everything almost didn't related to FCC, and yeah, it's cool. I got a couple jackets, one hooded, one without, and a couple shirts, and then my wife actually, you can't see it, but it's a very nice polo. But she made me 2 polos with CST logos on them. So cool stuff. I'm excited.
They look snazzy. They really do. Boston, did you get anything cool for Christmas, FC Cincinnati related?
Well, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm in kind of a new studio setup here. Got some studio equipment from my wife as well, and then FC Cincinnati related. I got this cool blanket you keep seeing on Twitter.
Oh man,
this thing is awesome. It is like super warm on one side and really soft on the other. It's life-changing.
Life-changing. I like it.
I got one for my wife. They're very nice.
It looks really nice. Looks warm, especially now with the deep freeze we're currently encountering here in Ohio at the moment. I did not get anything FC Cincinnati related this year. I was fully expecting to get something, either from my kids, my wife, my mom and dad, but nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know what I got? I got a whole bunch of Crystal Light, which I'm super thankful for. Don't get me wrong, because that's all I drink. But no, I did not get anything FC Cincinnati related, which is kind of a bummer.
I still think that's one of the weirdest things in the world. Like, you have a stash of Crystal Light, which like when I heard that, I was like, that's just code for some kind of drugs. What is Subs on?
No, so I gave up pop, like, it's coming up on 3 years next month. Actually, next January 10th would be the anniversary of the day of my last pop. And so I'm not a water drinker, and so all I do is just drink either Gatorade or Crystal Light. And my kids thought it would be hilarious to just stuff a box full of Crystal Light pouches, and it is what it is. No, I'm super thankful for that, and I'm sure there are a lot of folks who, and I've seen it on social media, Facebook, Twitter. I don't do the Reddit like Boston does, but I'm seeing a whole bunch of GIFs and cool things that people are getting FC Cincinnati related, which is really cool. So continue to share those with us, your pictures at Cincy Soccer Talk on Twitter. We'll be making sure to retweet those as well. There was some news since we last joined you on this very podcast. FC Cincinnati announced the signing of Lance Lang. He is a left-footed winger or left back, joining us from North Carolina FC. This is another one of those names, but Brian Weigel, who had at the top of his player board for the offseason for wanting to join FC Cincinnati. This is a really good signing for the club. I know, Boston, you were pretty geeked about it as well.
Yeah, it seems like we're going after those North Carolina players, and for good reason. You know, the NASL had some really good players in the league this year, and North Carolina did well. And I'm really glad to see us get this left-footed winger. Kind of plays left back, but this is a guy. I'm trying to figure out if Brian Weigel is helping Koch in some way. He builds these player boards, or does Brian Weigel really secretly work for FC Cincinnati and he's just leaking it to us? Got to go one way or the other.
I think, Bill, we know that that's not the case, right?
Yeah, I know. I actually tried to get him a job, and I don't think it panned out. So,
no, but I know you're geeked about the signing as well, Bill.
No, I am, and I think the very interesting thing is to think about where exactly he fits into the roster as it is. Obviously, we've got players that we know that are out there. Joe Sue and Jimmy McLaughlin both kept on the roster this year. Both play on the left side of the pitch. So now you bring in this left-footed player who's a winger / back, and what does that mean? It obviously could mean that you've got more depth. It could mean players that we were expecting to see on the pitch are going to not be on the pitch as much. For me personally, I'm actually really excited about the potential to see him in a wing position. I don't know whether that's going to happen or whether he's, we'll find out what Alan Koch has in mind once they start training and playing. But at least for me, the possibility of him in that wing position is very exciting. I've seen some footage of him making some very incredible crosses. And I think that's what we've been missing. I mean, Jimmy's a phenomenal player. He's obviously a fan favorite. I love him on the pitch, and I actually want to see him on the pitch, but he's right-footed, right? So what you tend to do is you see him cut in and take shots, or cut into the center and kind of end up, looking like a withdrawn forward. So, I think getting a true left-footed winger is going to be a big bonus for us. And we've seen in the past where Jimmy and, for instance, Weeds have swapped places, and Jimmy's played on the right for a while. So maybe Jimmy moves right and starts to become a right-footed wing player for us. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned
And best
that too.
part.
Go ahead, Boston.
No, just best part. He doesn't count as an international player. He's domestic. He's got a green card, and we confirmed that on Twitter, I believe. And that still leaves FC Cincinnati with one more spot available.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm glad you mentioned too about Jimmy switching sides with Weeda. One of the things, and it was very apparent to me, and if it was apparent to me, most likely it was apparent to every single manager in the USL last year, that Jimmy doesn't really have a left foot. And even when he crosses the ball in going towards the end line, he's typically using the outside of his right foot to get that cross off. And so I think every defender fully knew that that Jimmy was going to try to cut inside, and they just showed him left. And it just made it a lot easier to defend on that left side. Now, you bring Lang into the fold. He's left-footed, and he's shown the ability to get forward. And this is a good thing. This is, a guy who could provide service into the box for a guy like Koenig from that left side, something we really haven't seen in the first 2 years of this club.
Yeah, little silence there. Sorry, but no, I think it'll be a very interesting a piece and a change. So as you said, something we haven't seen.
Well, as we mentioned at the start of the show, we want to hear from you tonight. 513-399-KICK, your favorite memories, your favorite moments, any key moments that you wanted to discuss tonight here for 2017. This is the last show of the year. We want to hear from you again. That number 513-399-KICK. Brad is back to screening calls for us tonight. He was stressed there with the computer crashing on him like it did, but we do have him back screening calls. So again, get in touch, 513-399-KICK. Let's go to those phones and go to the King's Hammer hotline and welcome in Chris Weimer. What's up, Chris? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Harry? I'm doing good. How about yourself?
You sound like you're at Bucketheads.
I am.
How did I know?
I'm just sitting on my normal stuff. My carrot.
So give us the scoop.
So
What's the favorite moment of the year?
I think the Pittsburgh trip. The Pittsburgh trip was probably the best time out. It kind of got everything going when we took over their stadium, and just unreal of moments. I know there's a lot of U.S. Cup stuff and everything, but the Pittsburgh trip was kind of the best moment to me. I mean, with that smoke and we won, and I don't know, it's just everything about that trip was awesome.
It was a very fun day. Yeah,
I
remember it fondly. Boston and we were on that trip together, shared a seat on the bus ride. Now, Chris, you didn't ride the bus with us, but you were certainly there.
No, me and Ethan. Yeah, me and Ethan drove up for the weekend. So yeah, it was awesome. But we'll definitely be on your next bus trip, wherever it goes. Definitely Nashville.
Oh, there, I like that. Well, Chris, we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you being such a big supporter of the show and the site, and we're really looking forward to hearing more from you here in 2018, buddy. Happy New Year.
You too. See you guys.
That's Chris Weimer giving us a ring, the first caller on the King's Hammer hotline tonight. Again, 513-399-KICK. Let us know your thoughts on your favorite moments of the year. That was a fun trip, Boston.
It really was. And you know what? That was a trip FC Cincinnati won on the road, which is pretty rare. And it seemed to be like when we would travel, when the fans would travel, Cincinnati seemed to win. I know they won in Miami when there was a lot of travel support down there. And the one bad thing, I guess, about 2017 was our road performance. And when the fans showed up, they just did better. And I think that's a theme the fans are going to have to remember in 2018. We'll do our part. We'll get a trip together, but we gotta be out there supporting the guys.
Yeah, Bill was one of those guys who made the trip down multiple times to Florida. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, you went down to Florida on three different occasions last year to see FC Cincinnati, and so that away support, especially in that Open Cup game against Miami, had to have been huge.
Oh, I think so. I mean, we were incredibly loud. I went back later and listened to the game footage, the feed, and it was incredible just to hear us banging away on the drums and singing as loud as we could. And I think the players really took heart from that. I almost, I wish somehow we could have had the roster we had for the second game with the away crowd we had for the first game, because it was even more significant that first time. But obviously a lot of people couldn't afford that second trip to Florida. They'd spent a lot of their money to get down there the first time. But yeah, it was just phenomenal. And they, no, I'm not saying we were louder in the stadium. I think the mics were kind to us as far as where they were placed, but without a doubt, we were a huge influence, and we fed off of the team doing well. And here we are. I mean, what a year. So
yeah, it was a big year for the club. I know the year, as far as the USL season goes, did not go according to plan. A lot of that had to do with, one of the bigger moments of the year in 2017 happening before the season even started, and that was Alan Koch being named the head coach, replacing John Hark. So that's one of our key moments for the year. That not necessarily saying it was one of our favorite moments, but it was a key moment in the year that affected a lot of things. Who's to say the Open Cup run happens with John Harkes as head coach? I'm not so sure that it does. Who's to say the USL form might have been a little bit better? Who knows? But it was a big moment in 2017, no question.
Yeah, started off the year with a kick. I mean, I know all of us were like, what? They're changing the head coach like right before preseason camp. And no, they were down in Florida already. And then you got a new coach and you swapping players in on the fly. And it definitely affected our performance. Especially at the beginning of the year, bringing in players at the last minute. I know we had chemistry issues, and I'm glad to see that 2018 that's already a focus. This chemistry, starting a preseason earlier, coming under the plan. But yeah, you're right. The head coaching change for I think it had some positive impacts, and I think there were some negative impacts, like that chemistry issue right off the get-go.
Well, I don't even think it was right off the get-go, Boston. I mean, obviously it was right. We felt it immediately, but I think it lasted the entire season. And the reality is you had players that came in who signed with the club, who, talked to John Harkes, who built a relationship with John Harkes, who thought they were going to play for a national team legend, and had that yanked out from underneath them. And, no matter how professional you want to be, obviously, if you went into a job and you whatever you want to call it, went in and did your job interview with your boss. And as you walked in the door, they said, and by the way, we fired your boss and here's your new boss. You'd be like, what the heck too? And this is even more significant for them, because it's not just like, you're doing your job, but you're literally day to day, this guy is telling you what to do, like micromanaging you at some level. And I think just the whole, and then he brought in his own players. He had his own style. I think it's, like you mentioned, Nick, it's so hard to tell what the season would have done USL wise if we'd kept that team. I suspect, it would have done better. John Harkes probably had a plan. And I'm not saying that, he's a better coach or as good a coach or anything. I'm not comparing him down Koch, but I'm just saying he probably had a plan. And the problem is that plan got yanked to the side as well, because Alan is not John Harkes. He had a different plan. And whichever one's better doesn't matter. The point was it was a different plan. And here you go. You got a bunch of players who maybe don't fit that plan, and some people who are resentful, and you've got some chemistry issues, and you've got the wrong pieces, and you're bringing in new people, and they're getting playing time. And yeah, I think chemistry wise, you could sense it until we were in a situation like an Open Cup game where we were basically going to get our butts whooped, right? And everybody knew it. The team didn't play for each other. There was certainly cliques within the team, but as a whole, I don't think you never felt like they played as a whole unit until you saw those Open Cup games. And then all of a sudden they played great. So, I think that was a huge significant moment for the team, just from the fact of the chemistry.
And how many times, I was going to say, and how many times do you see in the history of professional sports where you see a coaching change being made either right before the season starts or early on in the season, where things go well for that season, right? It almost never happens. And the fact that this team still managed to make it to the playoffs, they still managed to get to the semifinals of the U.S. Open Cup, that's pretty remarkable when you consider all of the tumult that happened early on in the season. So you got to give Alan Koch a little bit of credit there. Now, I know a lot of folks throughout the year, they were seeing the away form in USL and really starting to question things. But after taking a step back here the last few months, you kind of look at the big picture and you see what just happened with this team. That was pretty significant.
I don't think you can. I don't want to say this. I mean, if you just literally compare 16 to 17, right? Both years we made it to the playoffs. Both years we lost in the first round. And in 16, we lost in the second round, basically, of the Open Cup. And this year we made it to the semifinals. So just looking at the records year to year, 17 was a much more successful year than 16. So, I mean, I would say whatever we did obviously was better. So,
and not just on the field as well, off the field, as far as ticket sales was much better in 2017 as well too. So that's another one of our key or big highlights of the 2017 season. Had to have been more records being broken as far as ticket sales for FC Cincinnati. No question about that. Again, we want to hear from you though. What were your favorite moments? What were your key moments of the year for FC Cincinnati? Get in touch with us on the Kings Hammer hotline, 513-399-KICK. If you're shy, you don't want to call in, you can always let us know on Facebook in the comments as well as on YouTube. We do have this comment on YouTube from Jesse Gill. He says, for me, a moment that gets overlooked was Koenig's 92nd minute goal against Orlando City B in August. A loss that night could have demoralized the fan base. And that was a weird night because FC Cincinnati, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I think they were up 1-0 and then got down 2-1 on two real just sloppy defensive goals by, giving up possession and then getting hit on the counter like we did, and then scraping by with a draw that night in stoppage time. That was a big night.
Yeah, real big, especially since we're fighting for a playoff, spot. It's getting down to the wire, end of season. You have to really start picking up points. Even a draw helps. We knew about that time in the year that we were running for that maybe 6th, 7th, and 8th spot. And there was a chance we could still fall out at 9. There's, I think, 4 or 5 teams, in it running for those last 3 to 4 spots, and Orlando was one of them. Yep. It's just not a team you want to get past. And, now looking back, you see the way the season ended. Orlando is the team that fell out of there. And if they picked up 2 more points on us that night, it could have been real bad. We could have been on the outside looking in.
And that was a big night, too, because if you look at where that night fell in the schedule, the fixture list for FC Cincinnati, they didn't have very many home games left. And we knew their away form, Bill, it was rough. So you had to get points at home, and that was a big point.
Yeah, I mean, when you have like 4 away games at the end of your season, and that you're struggling to get beyond a tie at away games, you definitely need the points at home. So I think that was not to bring religion into this, but that was one of those come to Jesus moments for a lot of people where they started to say, oh, we may not make the playoffs, but just because this was so expected. Everybody just thought, okay, we get 3 here and then we just ride out at the end. And all of a sudden, we were down to the last game needing points. And they got it done. So that's great. But boy, they did keep us in suspense. So
following the travel theme, on Twitter, we have at IPA Fangirl says, the first match my daughter and I went to as a traveling Bailey FC Cincinnati fans was St. Louis. We had a blast. Turfway Joe follows that up with agrees St. Louis trip was awesome. Guys, I'm extremely jealous of you. I traveled a lot this year. That was one of my goals, but I did not make it out to St. Louis.
Yeah, but one of the highlights for you had to have been probably going to Charleston.
Charleston was amazing. And, the reason I chose to go to Charleston, one, it was the first game of the year. And second of all, I had heard how great it was down there from the previous year traveling support. And I honestly think I'm going to go again here in 18. It is, if you haven't been, Charleston is, one, it's a beautiful city. Beautiful soccer-specific stadium. They got a museum attached to it. In a bar, right on that, right. It's small, it's cozy, it's quaint. There's a fence with an alligator on the other side. It's weird, but it's really neat place to watch soccer. And I can't say enough about their fans. They will welcome you with open arms. You bring them some Cincinnati beer, they'll give you some Charleston beer. Oh, great stuff.
We're going to continue to reminisce about the 2017 year for FC Cincinnati, as this is the last show of the year. So we want to hear from you again. Make sure you chime in on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're going to continue monitoring those. Before we continue to go into some of our favorite moments, some of our key moments of the year, it's that time where we thank our big supporters. We cannot do the show without the help of our supporters, so we want to give a big shout out and thanks to Tim Bronsel and King's Hammer for their support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Of course, Matt Adamczyk, Mama Subs, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Mike Hudson, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, and Jesse Gill. All big-time supporters. They contribute $20 or more every month to this show and to this website. So thank you very much for your support, gentlemen, and Mom. And Jamie Smed, of course. We want to hear, again, as I mentioned, this is a listener-supported show. If you want to contribute and help Cincinnati Soccer Talk, you can do that by going to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. We did get this on YouTube. I know we're talking about some of our favorite moments, but this is probably not one of our favorite moments. And PJ says, worst moment, traveling to Louisville for that bleep show of a game. I think that's the Streamergate night. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen.
Yep, that would be Streamergate.
No, it's Streamergate Part 2, right? Because Streamergate Part 1, where it all spawned from, was the first game, and we traveled down there, which I saw someone mention on Facebook as well as their favorite moment. We walk in the stadium, and we're immediately greeted by security. This is the first game in July. And the security guy decides to take us all the way around the stadium. Like, march. It'd be like marching 3/4 the way around Nippert before we get to our seats. And we asked the guy, we said, are you sure this is a bad idea? And he said, yeah, you're coming this way. Stop asking questions. And we march and we sing and we parade all the way around their stadium.
Through all their supporters.
And through all their fans, the right past the supporter group, right past the casual fans, through the outfield. We basically did the three bases on the outskirts of the stadium, but it was a blast. And that's where a couple streamers fell on the field. It starts Streamergate.
You're right.
And then we get to the worst moment you just described.
You are correct, Boston. Streamergate was actually because of the two streamers or whatever it was that landed in their field and the just riot that occurred, on social media about how the terrible fans that had these streamers. So yeah, you're correct. That's right. And then of course the worst one was, as somebody said, that. Well, let's just keep it clean. That poop show that occurred afterwards when we went down there, and they were just like, police lined up behind us, holding guns and throwing people out. It was crazy stuff. But
there was more talk about what happened off the field than on the field because of
correct.
I mean, it was
correct.
Ugly early.
Yeah.
Semdovic being sent off in that game with the red card. And of course, the former FC Cincinnati striker. I'm not even going to mention his name because I'm so disgusted that he went down there and did well. Ugh. But no, that red card.
For him.
Yeah. And congrats to him, of course.
Well, Subs, let me cheer you up. Matthew Adamczyk's favorite moment is almost the exact opposite of our Louisville situation. St. Louis comes into Nippert Stadium, excited about their new season, their new head coach, Preki, and GB Fall puts a hat trick and an extra goal on him.
Home opener.
I like to call that a double brace. I like to call that.
A double brace. I like it. Yeah, that was the home opener. That was a big deal because they had played 3 games and really struggled to get anything going offensively. They'd gone to Pittsburgh and against 10 men could only manage the 1 goal. I think the first game of the year, they fell, I think it was 2-1 to Charleston, Boston. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And then they just offensively could not get anything going. And then here we are. They just exploded for 4 goals, and Jibby was unreal that night. That might be the greatest single performance I've ever seen from a forward in person in my lifetime. That was tremendous. And that was a big highlight for me for 2017. There's no question about it.
Yeah, remember when we won? Remember when we questioned whether he could score a goal with anything but his head? And then I think in that game he had 2 headers and a left foot goal and a right foot goal.
Yep. It's almost like he was reading our stuff and just wanted to prove us wrong.
That was a
Show
big
off.
night. Yeah, one of the reasons why I particularly enjoyed that night as well is because, and I know everybody and they're probably tired of hearing about it. Yes, I live up in Toledo, so getting down to Cincinnati for games is not something I get to do as much as I would like to. And so that was one of the few times this past year I was able to get down there. And one of the highlights for me was after the game, introducing our fan cams for the first time and getting to interview people and fans immediately after the game to get their reaction. And that was actually a night I interviewed Matt Adamczyk and his son. So that was a cool night as well. So I'm glad Matt brought that up on social media as well. PJ wants to know, are we launching more streamers down there this year? And that is in reference to Louisville. Do we risk it? I don't know. I don't know if my mom will be making that trip.
They have almost a completely new staff, PJ, as far as their game day operations guy, their social media guy, even their owner is a little bit more involved. I've seen them get a lot more relaxed since their stadium vote and everything on Twitter. I don't know. Like, I'm interested to see how they handle it as we lead up to the first game, and it'll be interesting to see who gets the two games. You know, one of us will host two, one of us will host one. And whoever gets to go first might set the rules, the tension. The tone. That's the word. And it might all come out of that. Like, who's the first team to host? How do they handle it? It's from there, because this is kind of a front office fight at the same time as a fan feud. So,
and a large part of that front office fight probably had a little bit to do with another key moment for 2017, and that would be another gate, this time bite gate. GB Fall suspended by USL for 8 games for allegedly biting. Was it Niall? Why can't I think of his name? McCabe, thank you. I wanted to say Quinn, but I knew that wasn't right. Niall McCabe down in Louisville. We're still waiting to see the photographic evidence that wasn't photoshopped for this. I mean, I know going into the 2017 season, not one of us thought that we would be discussing biting. I mean, how ridiculous, especially so early on in the year. I mean, you're thinking JB's going to go on and he's going to break the single season scoring record. I mean, I know it's been only 1 year at this point for the club, but you're thinking, oh man, he just scored 4 goals. He's got 5 total in like 3 games. And you're thinking he's just going to go on his tear, and then, well, now we got to wait 8 games for him to come back and play. Now, he could play in the Open Cup games, which turned out to be very vital, obviously. But, I mean, Bikey, how big a story was that in 2017?
Yeah, almost as big as spine kicking in 2016.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Forgotten about that. Let's not bring that up. But no, I think the worst thing for me was just not so much that we lost him for the 6 games, but I think we kind of lost him for the season, to be fair. I mean, I think, once it happened, every time he went on the pitch, it seemed like every referee just had it out for him. And he, he was almost shying away from his play. He's a physical player. I mean, he gets up there and he pushes on players, and he causes a lot of issues in the box for defenders, and every call was against him. I mean, he drew red cards or lots of yellow cards very early just from being GB. And to me, as I watched him, he just seemed timid. He was definitely not the player that was scoring a goal a game, and until he got to the Open Cup, and obviously did well there. I mean, that was great, but even there, he accumulated enough yellow cards that he couldn't play the last game.
Silly yellow cards. A lot of those, and I know we talked about it at great length, which I guess we can also mention another key moment of 2017 was officiating. Oh man, was that a storyline for 2017? We won't touch on that a whole lot because it's kind of pointless.
Because that's no one's favorite moment.
Right, exactly. So, but I would say, and this happened quite a bit in games that Jibby started, you could tell real early what kind of mood he was in, and you just sensed that the inevitable was going to happen. You just had this feeling he's not going to make it to halftime. He's not going to make it through this game. And we would say it during the games, like Koch has got to get him out, because this team, they can't afford to be playing down a man. And so that was a big storyline for this year. There's no question about that.
I thought he was much better coming in like the 60th minute. To me, it just felt like the way he played, the way that the referees viewed him, the way the officiating was going, that, if he came in later in a game where the energy level was already up, maybe the referees weren't looking to set a tone early. He just seemed to fit better with the energy of the game at that point. And when he came in early and he'd go, hard right off the bat, as referee is almost just like, well, let's just throw a yellow card at GB, and set the tone here. And it was just too easy. So
we have, let's see here. We have a Facebook comment from Eric Turner. He said, I guess I'm the only one here, but my favorite moment was Omar Cummings' retirement game. I've watched him since his freshman year of college at Cincy State. I think he then went to the Cincinnati Bearcats, and then elsewhere, MLS, and then all the way back here to Cincinnati. Hell of a person and a player.
That was a big moment as well here in 2017. Omar retiring, and now basically playing at a more of an ambassador type role for FC Cincinnati here, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, he was the local hero. I mean, obviously, Austin Berry was another big one, being that he truly was local. But I think a lot of people really looked at Omar Cummings as one of those big marquee signings the first year. He had played at University of Cincinnati. He kind of viewed Cincinnati as home at some level, at least. We certainly adopted him if he didn't feel that way, but he had gone on to the MLS. He'd been extremely successful. He'd had a great career, and here he was coming home. And I think when you look at things like, why did FC Cincinnati take off? Why did it really succeed? Certainly having Carl Linder involved was a big part. I think a lot of people saw Jeff Birding as important, just from his connections with the city, and also his connections with some of the soccer clubs and such in the area. And then John Harkes, not to go back to that conversation, but he's a huge name. And then when we started doing signings, right, you had the local boy Austin Berry, and you had the local hero who did it and made it to the MLS and played at the top level and came back to Cincinnati, and that was Omar Cummings. And to me, when you had that marquee player come in, that was a big deal for the club. And after 2 years he retired. It was a little unfortunate. I think that injury the first year really never fully allowed him to come back at the level he needed to play at, which is unfortunate. But he stayed with the club, and I think everybody in the city loved him, and I think the club really loves him, and he's got a role, so that's great. Yeah,
I think when you go back to that day the team was announced back in 2015 at this point, when they said Omar Cummings was going to be playing for FC Cincinnati, that was a name around soccer circles people were familiar with. He was obviously a MLS Cup champion with the Colorado Rapids, had a great MLS career, played internationally for Jamaica, their national team. So that was kind of along with the Harkes name, that was the signal across the bow to the soccer community, like, hey, FC Cincinnati's building something here that seems pretty legitimate. Now, because, and we've talked about it before here on the show, they've had teams come and go. We're going to have this great soccer environment. The Silverbacks came and went. The Saints never really drew like I think they had hoped. And now here you get this ownership, and I'm probably completely repeating what you've said, Bill, but it was a big deal when they brought him on. And so I'm glad he's still on board with the team. I'm glad he's still going to be around to mentor a lot of these young guys who are trying to get to where he did. So that was a good key moment here for 2017. I'm glad that that was mentioned as well. One of the big moments for the 2017 season, obviously we can't go on without talking about the Open Cup run. And this coming from Daniel, he says, what about the header against the Crew and penalty shots against the Fire? And obviously, taking down two Major League Soccer teams at Nippert Stadium this summer, easily, arguably, probably on most FC Cincinnati fans' lists at the top.
It was huge, huge, absolutely. And not just from the fact that, visibly we took down 2 MLS teams, but, we played 3 MLS teams in Nippert Stadium. So we got to have FCC at the national stage playing against MLS teams. It was a very sort of foreshadowing kind of moment for us each time. And, we got some ESPN exposure. Patrick Lonnie actually brings up the fact that we had Sunil Gulati and we had Don Garber in Cincinnati in Nippert Stadium watching the New York Red Bulls game. We had, during, I don't know if it was the All-Star game or I think it was the All-Star game where Taylor Twellman was talking about us with Jesse Marsh from New York Red Bulls. So we got all this huge exposure at the MLS level, the national level, about us, and such great exposure for what our fans do and everything. So yeah, it was huge. And I don't think we could, if anybody wants to say about the MLS bid, which I know we haven't talked a lot about the situation there, but if anybody wants to say what cemented that for us, for sure the Open Cup, if there was any doubt, the Open Cup from a significance point, it was huge. I mean, it made a huge difference as far as the visibility of FC Cincinnati nationally.
Yeah, and before we put out the fire, we had the Hell's Real Derby, and Subs, I've seen several Facebook mentions of the clip you put out right after that Columbus Crew game, and Chris Marshall said that's his first CST show, and it really drew him in, that passion. I think they want to know what that passion sounds like again.
Yeah. That was me going crazy after that to win against the Columbus Crew. That was a highlight, obviously. That was a big deal. I can't believe that video got over 2,000 views on YouTube. That was a big deal. And I know Tim Bronsel also tweeted today that was the big highlight for him was that reaction after the Crew game. You knew it was a big deal when the week after that game, I go to a family reunion, and folks who don't watch soccer, don't care about soccer, said to me, "Wow, I watched your video." So that was kind of a big deal for me in 2017. Not to mention, and I was shocked that this happened. I'm still baffled that somebody took the time to paint my face on a 2-pole. Crazy. I never thought that would ever happen.
No, that was pretty cool. I think that was Jeremy Schultz put that together, and he kind of like gave some of us a heads up, like, "Hey, I'm doing a watch your tackles 2-pole," and we were trying to get you down for that game. We were like, "Hey, Subs, you should really come down for this game." And it's and you were like, "Why? I gotta take my kids to practice," and like, "No, you should really come down. It's gonna be a good game for some reason we can't talk about."
Yeah, it was very much a big surprise, Bill.
Yeah, I think the best moments were some of the photo ops I saw, where later that 2-pole would come back and you'd see it like in marches and such. But it always seemed like it gravitated towards the Skyline Coney, though.
Yeah, the Skyline 3-way.
No, was it a 3-way? Sorry.
If you're listening to this, go back and watch the Chicago Fire March, and you will see the Subs 2-pole pops up. It's like the very first one, and then the Skyline one pops up right in front of it, and it looks like Subs is going to eat that coney.
Can you blame me? I mean, it's so good. But no, that was a fun highlight. Let's talk about that though, because the Fire game, that's a big moment in the history, not just for this year, but will go down in the history of the club as a whole, how big of a moment that was. It was the night after our first live show there at the American Sign Museum. Bill was there for that show. Brad was there for that show as well. It was a night where we weren't sure what was going to happen. We weren't sure if Schweinsteiger was going to play for the Fire. I assumed he wouldn't because, they had so many guys missing from the team for national team duty. Playing on a turf field on a guy who's got aging knees. I didn't think he was going to play. And then to find out moments before the game that he was starting, And then knowing that GB wasn't going to play in that game, and you're thinking, oh, there's no way. And in the first 20 minutes, Mitch is just getting peppered and peppered and peppered. And Matt Boehner makes this incredible save off the goal line. And this game just kept going. It kept progressing 0-0. You get to the 60th minute. And, FC Cincinnati starts to gain a little momentum on the field, getting some shots on goal. Then we get to the 70th and 80th minute, and you're wondering, oh, is this going to happen? And then as, stoppage time expires, Corbin Bones got a golden opportunity. I think McLaughlin had an opportunity to score a goal. Bone, I think, had a one-on-one breakaway with the keeper that could have sealed it in regulation. But it will go down as the probably most significant moment in 2017 for a lot of folks.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, just that moment where that last save happened, I think there are people that will talk about that for the rest of their lives. They were there, that they saw that. That was a huge, significant moment for so many people. I mean, if you guys were out on social media, right? FC Cincinnati shared a YouTube sort of best soccer moments of the year video. Copa 90, I don't remember, but anyway. Copa 90, thank you. And we're the closer. I mean, that final save it just almost describes soccer to so many people. It was the underdog. We certainly didn't expect to win that game. It was you mentioned GB not playing, but it wasn't even GB not playing. It was like so many key starting players not playing. I mean, Dakers was in there. I think it was one of the rare games where Stevenson got to play. There was definitely
Dominguez.
some different. Yeah, was Halfhill in there? I mean, I'm trying to think back, but there was some very different players on the field. Dominguez, it was another one.
Not to mention, at that point in the MLS season, Chicago Fire was number 1. They were on top.
Yeah, absolutely. And they didn't. They had some players out, but they had their number 1 goal scorer right with them, as I recall. And they had obviously Feinstein, who you mentioned the aging knees and the turf, but I'll tell you what, he still caused some serious issues for us. He's the only one that scored against Mitch in the entire game, right?
That's right.
So, and then hushed the crowd. But, hey, he deserved it. But no, I mean, seriously, I mean, it was just an incredible moment. And it's certainly one that probably was why we managed to get Garber and Neil Galati to the third game, was just that atmosphere, people saying you got to be there.
32,000 people there in the stands. Just the loudest soccer environment I've been a part of. And I was very fortunate. That was one of the few games I got to go to this year with my son. And it was absolutely, I think that moment might have single-handedly, maybe single-handedly is not the right way to put it. I think that was what sent FC Cincinnati from being this, oh, it's a nice story, they're getting a lot of fans there, to, okay, they need to be strongly considered for Major League Soccer. The atmosphere is crazy for an Open Cup game. They're competing with Major League Soccer teams on the field. This team is legit. And the fact that it was on a nationally televised audience on ESPN, not like ESPN3 or ESPN Ocho, they were on the big dog ESPN. And I think that was a huge thing for the club going forward for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and Brad, sorry if I'm going to get the last name right, but Miyagawa brings up the disallowed goal, which we talk so much about the saves, right, which were phenomenal, of course, but Wiedemann actually scored, right, and then they got it wrong and disallowed it, and of course he had his big celebration moment, and that's sort of monumental. I almost feel so bad for Weeds, because that would have been like a highlight moment of the year if they hadn't disallowed it. So
yeah, and Taylor Twellman's on ESPN telling a national audience that Wiedemann actually scored the goal and the officials got it wrong. Who would have thought? 2017, pretty cool.
It was a cool year, and I'm sure we missed a lot of big moments. And if you want to refresh our memories, please do. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let us know what we missed. What are your favorite moments of the 2017 season? We want to hear from you. Again, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. I think we need to do an MLS update, at least a little bit of one, right, guys? I mean, we don't know much other than it's going to be 2018. The club has been very mum. Major League Soccer has been very hush-hush about when the announcement is going to be, who it could be announced. What we do know is that Sacramento, their biggest investor, Meg Whitman from, I believe, Hewlett-Packard, out, not going to be contributing. Formerly, yep. And then, of course, Jed York of the 49ers, also not going to be involved as well now, which is a huge setback for Sacramento. It doesn't necessarily mean Cincinnati is a lock. Now, I know a lot of folks are looking at this as, okay, it's between Cincinnati and Detroit now, and we've seen crazier things happen with this league before. But give me a confidence level, guys, of a percentage. What's your confidence level at now? I know Bill was already at 100% even before, but Boston, I'll start with you. Where are you at?
I shifted from about a 65, 70% confidence level to, after the Sacramento news broke, I'm at like a 97%. I think this is in Cincinnati's court. I think some of the rumors we've heard are true, as far as Cincinnati's lawyers are working on a deal, and that we due to the fact we had a location change and a vote right at the end, we didn't get the chance like Nashville did to have all the paperwork done, the day of. We filled the paperwork out after the fact, and it's something Sacramento would have had to do as well. But I think currently, unless Sacramento gets a angel investor at the last minute, we're looking at a very good chance, and I would not be surprised at all if the first or second week of January we get 1 day's notice and there's an event somewhere.
Yeah, so I guess I'll follow with sure, 100%. Nothing is done, right? I mean, until MLS literally is standing there shaking Jeff's hand, it's not a done deal. So I hate to say 100%, but let's just say it's the narrow, slim chance that I think that it couldn't happen is small enough that, from a rounding standpoint, we'll just call it 100%. But yeah, I mean, I think even before the Sacramento thing happened, I've been saying for a while that I think it's Cincinnati, Nashville. I think there's been a lot of reasons for quite a bit. I think the Sacramento issue nails the coffin shut, as far as I'm concerned. And Boston, you made a comment about, if an angel investor comes in, I mean, sure, that certainly would be a great thing for Sacramento. I would love to see them, because they certainly, from a fan standpoint, have earned attention. But Meg Whitman was an angel investor. I mean, she came in, obviously she came in before they made their presentation in New York. But from a standpoint of what we found out, it was hours before she made her presentation. They made their presentation in New York, and suddenly Meg Whitman's in the picture. And then 8 days later or whatever, she's out of the picture. So I don't think if you're MLS, you're going to say, oh, hey, look, here's another billionaire who came in who's going to support Sacramento. Yeah, let's take them. I'd be like, let's wait a little bit and see if they stick around more than a week. I wouldn't feel very confident. I mean, they're dropping owners and shifting owners so fast at this point. I think they need to prove that they have a solid ownership group, and some of these very, very wealthy owners do need to become majority stakeholders, which I do think that they're talking about that as a possibility now, because that's been one of their issues is they've had some very wealthy people involved, as you mentioned, the 49ers owner York, but he was a minority owner, and even Meg Whitman came in as a minority owner. So that's not a good optic. They need to have the people with the money making some of the decisions. But anyway, regardless of that, I think, nailing the coffin shut, great. I've been saying Cincinnati for a while, and I'm sticking to it.
So should we play a little game of Price is Right? Guess if we think this is going to be the case, if we think Major League Soccer is going to be announcing in Cincinnati, who wants to be that person to put the prediction on the table right here and now? Is it the first week of January or the second week of January, Boston?
It's the first week. Going with January 3rd or 4th.
All right, Boston's going for the 3rd or 4th. How about you, Bill?
I'm I am going to say, I think it's a Wednesday. That's the day they did Nashville. I think it's a good travel day. I think that MLS enjoys, like kind of doing it in the middle so that they can take care of business on the ends of the week. But I don't think it's going to be the 3rd. I think it's going to probably be the 10th. I guess it would be the next Wednesday. I think MLS has said that they will. They need some time to get it together, and I think it's kind of waiting probably on their end at this point. So until they're back in business next week to plan the trip for the following week.
I'm hoping and praying and begging Major League Soccer, if you're listening, and I know FC Cincinnati fans don't want to hear this because they're ready to go now. They want that announcement now. But please make it on the 10th of January because then I can make it down for the announcement. So please, Don Garber, if you're listening, Dan Cortemanch, if you're listening, January 10th would work out perfectly for me and hopefully you. So that's our predictions. We're hoping that is.
Yeah, I just told him, so I think it'll be the case.
Oh, the Wolfman's on my side. I love it. So good,
Exactly.
good, of course. Awesome stuff. A couple of other notes that we need to get to before we begin wrapping up here. How cool is this? Now, I'm not a Redditor. I think that's what you call it. If you're on Reddit, are you a Redditor? Is that what it is, Boston?
Yeah, you're dead on.
Okay.
I'm proud of you.
So Boston is, I guess, the official Cincinnati Soccer Talk Redditor, and he kind of filled us in on some USL awards that were being put together by the subreddit, I hope I got that right, of USL Pro.
Yep.
And how about this? Cincinnati Soccer Talk was voted as the USL 2017 Podcast of the Year. That's pretty cool.
It is really cool. I think it means a little bit more just because there are a lot of people in this league. There are a lot of people on that subreddit that are not just FC Cincinnati fans, and it was neat to get. It's just an internet award. We didn't get a physical trophy or anything, but I think it shows what a good job you do putting on this show, and everybody that writes for the website. Just I'm proud of all you guys.
Yeah, it was a big deal. And you wanted to say something, Bill?
No, I was just going to say I think it's a phenomenal honor. As he said, we didn't set up the awards, we didn't nominate ourselves. I don't know exactly, how it comes about or how many people voted, but it was pretty neat to see it out there. And Boston, as you said, is our official Redditor, so he found it out there and let us know and kept an eye on it. And then here we are, we won it, and that was pretty exciting. So.
Yeah, it was very
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you to everybody who went out and, I guess, upvoted. I'm learning all kinds of new technical Reddit terms here tonight. I have zero knowledge on Reddit and how it works, so I'm glad we have Boston on board for that. But we were among some really good company. I mean, Fourth Floor Creative won for USL Video of the Year, so congrats to Tommy G and their staff over at Fourth Floor Creative. Pat Brennan won the Best Writer Award as far as the covering team for the Cincinnati Enquirer. So we were in some really, really good company from an FC Cincinnati perspective on those on that slate of awards. So really, really cool job to everybody involved with that. What else do we need to get to here? Go ahead, boss.
Cincinnati Dutch Lions.
That's right.
The PDL team in town signed Nico as their head coach. I think he's the second FC Cincinnati player to retire, and he's been great as far as community support. Huge in that first year for us, and even in the second year, he got some playing time and made his impact in that back midfieldish area. I think he's going to, he's played in the PDL before. He moved up to the USL. He played many years with the Wilmington Hammerheads, and then finished his career here in Cincinnati. I think he's going to be a great head coach. I think he's going to bring a lot of name recognition. And what I really have wanted to see for the last couple of years is that FC Cincinnati's fan support, traveling and supporting the PDL team. And I really think that this year is a good year. That's a really good move for the Dutch Lions.
I mean, everybody talks about, Paul Nicholson when he was on the field as having this high soccer IQ. And I think that's part of what he brings is that knowledge, that understanding of the game that he can really impart upon some of these younger sort of college age students who are trying to launch their career coming, basically their preseason training going into the fall season at college, but they want to go beyond that. He's going to be one of those guys who can mentor some of these players and really teach them some things. And I know he's already started coaching, so this isn't his first gig, though he's been at a younger level. He's been with King's Hammer doing some coaching. He's been involved with the Kentucky Olympic Development Program. I don't know what his credentials are at this point, but obviously this is something he's been thinking about for a little bit, at least, on the side. Maybe he hadn't planned it this year, but it sounds like he's truly launching it off once he made that decision to retire. And I think he's going to be a great asset. I'm really looking forward to it. So I have to buy my season tickets.
There you go. Yeah, I'm wishing Paul Nicholson nothing but the best of luck there with the Cincinnati Dutch Lions. We're really looking forward to seeing what Nico does with that team playing. I guess they're going to be playing across the river again in Northern Kentucky, right, Boston?
Yeah, they play at NKU. They have a beautiful soccer-specific stadium down there. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It is actually a really cool spot.
It is. It's a great stadium.
Still waiting
and
on...
they sell beer.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, right, guys?
Yep.
Still waiting on...
Just making sure.
Yeah, we're still waiting on, I guess, the courts to decide the Division II sanctioning as far as NASL and USL. So we're still keeping an eye on that. We're hoping that the USL schedule will be released here in the near future, about a month away. They released it last year on January 27th, which was in just the right amount of time for us to plan that rushed bus trip to Pittsburgh last year. It'd be nice if we can get an earlier schedule, but we digress. And of course, we know some jersey numbers now. We know Heineman's going to wear number 9, Gibson's going to wear number 4, and Lang is going to wear number 14. Spencer Ritchie's going to wear number 18. No number 10 yet, and no number 1 yet, guys.
Yeah, Mitch wore number 1. A little odd that Richie's an 18. Bill, do you think, or no?
I can't say for sure that I think we were talking about this and I thought somebody brought up that it seemed like maybe his Twitter feed or something used 18 in it. So it seems like maybe that's an important number to him. So it could be completely, unimportant. Like, he just might like 18 and that's the number he's going to use. He is a player on loan. So to me, it would be a little odd that we borrow a player from the Whitecaps and then put him on the bench. But we kind of did that with Mansoray, so I guess that wouldn't be the first time. But obviously, I think when you borrow a player, typically you think you're going to play them. It may not work out, but typically it seems like the idea is that they're going to be a significant player for you, or why would the other team loan them to you? But nothing says surprise like winning the MLS bid and us bringing in like a big name goalkeeper or something. So let's see. But yeah, at least for me right now, I'm kind of thinking that it's more just a fluke. I think Richie's going to be our guy. I think he's a quality keeper. He's been an MLS keeper for a while, and he just needs some time between the pipes.
We spent a lot of this episode going over some of our highlights of the year. And one gentleman that went over his highlights of the year this week on our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com, is our very own Alex Veer, our staff photographer. And he kind of laid out his favorite photos from the 2017 season. So make sure you go check that out, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Boston did a really good job putting that piece together, and him and Alex working together on that. So go check that out. You won't want to miss I tell you what, we can't stress this enough. Alex is one of the finest sports photographers in the area covering, and we're so thankful he's on board with us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So we'll make sure you check that out. We've got a few more favorite moments of the year. Bill, why don't you give us some of those that you got there on social media?
Well, I got to reach out to my buddy Matt Long, who made the comment about the incredible moment of having 150 plus supporters in a pool hall waiting out a rain delay down in Miami. So for all of the people who went down to Miami, you remember how awesome that was. It was a great time. It was wet and soggy, but we had fun. We had Jeff come in and buy beer for everybody. And, it was a party. Didn't quite work out for us as far as a game, but yeah, that was an incredible moment to see that much support down there for that game. And then, maybe not on a happy note, but on a more somber note, but something just to kind of talk about the kind of support that this club has beyond just rooting for teams to kick balls in the net. But Tina Harris brought up Super Bubs, which I think was a pretty big moment for a lot of people to see him take the field as the honorary captain. The support that he got locally for the whole city, but also just from the supporters groups and from the club was pretty heartwarming, I would say.
Yeah.
So
those are two good ones. I like those, Bill. Now we appreciate everybody who sent those in. I was going to say chimed in, but we didn't get a lot of callers tonight. Chris was the only one, but I'm glad that people submitted those, Boston.
How about, Bill just reminded me, and so did Eric Turner on Facebook, but how about the Coney phone during the Miami rain delay, and then our own Griff calling in our Coney phone line. With that blasting fire alarm.
I have to say, it's legendary. It's going to go down in history, and I love Griff for calling in with the fire alarm and all. But he kind of ruined my moment there because I was going to be like the local weatherman kind of thing, and I was going to step outside my car and just have the rain deluging me while I held my phone up with a hangout, because you guys were in a hangout with the Coney phone. So I was going to try to get live video of me being drenched in the rain to show people how bad it was. And I'm like, okay, guys, I'll go live, and they're like, no, after Griff, no, just don't.
We didn't trust you, Miami people, anymore. Griff blew our eardrums out.
He blew your ears out. Exactly. It was so loud. You guys were like, oh, stop, get him off a hangout. I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah, I was glad that you brought up the Coney phone, Boston, because I was going through, but I was trying to find the audio of me reacting to the Crew win. I was looking at the history of our YouTube views, and that video, the Crew video, is by far the most viewed, and rightly so, of course. But the second highest viewed video was the night of the Coney phone during the Miami rain delay, and that was kind of a last minute. Hey, let's quickly throw something together, because we knew people were going to be watching either online, because I'm not sure if the game was on Channel 12 that night. I think it had to be watched online on a computer or a device of some kind. So people were already going to be on the internet. And so Brian and I were like, hey, let's just do something live during this delay and see what happens. And then Jeff called in, you called in, and of course, who could forget the fire alarm with Griff? That was, when that happened live, there are moments where you might be able to see my face get red and get a little tense. That was a moment when the fire alarm kept going and going and going, where you could probably even see like the pulse in the side of my neck here start to pulsate.
Griff, hang up. Griff, hang up.
Yeah, that was a fun night. The Coney phone. We need to bring well, hopefully we don't have a lot of weather delays next year, but we do need to bring that back, and hopefully with a sponsor, Skyline. Anyway, those are some good memories here for this year, and we appreciate everybody for sending those in. All right. I think we need to start to wrap up, put a little bow on 2017. As we begin to get out of here, let's get to the final thoughts of the Wolfman, Bill Wolf.
All right, so I'm glad you chose me first. I'm going to bring things down just a touch. I just want to kind of put it out there for people who aren't aware, though probably a lot are. But this holiday season, we lost a true soccer, icon in this community, and it's a sad thing. Bob Dobbs passed away. For those who didn't know him, he was a member of the fan council, huge supporter of FCC, and he was also one of the first soccer players ever at University of Cincinnati men's soccer team. Both his boys played for UC. He was a Bearcat, black and red through and through, true supporter of the city, true supporter of soccer, true supporter of FCC. So very sad that he passed away.
Yeah, we heard that news. I think it was on Christmas Eve, which was really, really sad to hear. And all of our thoughts and prayers are with the Dobbs family at the moment. You're right. that was a big deal because when you hear of, he's basically a legend there at UC as being a part of that inaugural soccer team. And you just couple that with how new and young this FC Cincinnati team, you kind of see the relation there and so it was very, very disappointing to hear that, especially so close to the holiday season. So.
Yeah, he went to all the fan radio shows at Moreling Lager House. And I think it's kind of fitting. They're having a sort of a celebration of his life, and they're going to hold it at Nippert Stadium. And I think that's phenomenal. So if you knew Mr. Dobbs or Bob or however you referred to him, go out and look on Facebook, but there is information about a celebration of life at Nippert Stadium, which is, if you know him, that is beyond phenomenal. And I believe you're supposed to wear black and red to the event. So I think it will be a great celebration. I'm happy to see that. So.
Good stuff, Bill. As always, I appreciate you being with us, and Happy New Year to you and your family, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, Boston, your final thoughts as we get out of here?
Yeah, I just want I think this was a great episode. I loved this whole idea of looking back at what we've achieved. It's only our second year, and I feel like we've come further than any of us could have ever imagined. We're nearing an MLS decision, but 2018 is still going to be about, this next chapter in FC Cincinnati history, the chapter where Alan Koch gets his own team. We play in the USL. We're going to go for that USL Cup, and if we get MLS, that's awesome. But let's not forget, we have a season to win. We have a rival in Louisville, and to just kick their butts, take their trophy from them, and then pick it up, haul it to MLS, and not give it back to the USL.
Good stuff, Boston.
Hey, yeah, I was going to bring in one more thing that Sube says I can mention, so I'm going to jump in back here. Sorry, guys, to throw the whole flow off, but I just remembered big celebration for the holidays this year as part of the gift giving and people buying merchandise. We heard the official announcement that FCC has now officially shipped merchandise to every state in the United States. So I think that's another, as you were saying, Boston, it's only 2 years in. We're beyond just Cincinnati. We're beyond just Ohio and Kentucky. We are, in every state. So we are nationwide.
Yeah, it's becoming a national phenomenon, this FC Cincinnati movement. There's no question. And hopefully it continues to roll through the 2018 year with hopefully a USL championship. Excuse me. And hopefully a Major League Soccer announcement here very, very, very soon. Before I get to my final thoughts, I mentioned it on the last episode that I know a lot of folks, and we mentioned the supporters and people that contribute financially every month. And I always say, if you can't help us financially, there are other ways to support us, and that's with iTunes reviews. So I wanted to take a few moments here to read a couple of the latest iTunes reviews we've gotten. First, start with Melly Moshe. The coverage of FC Cincinnati by the CST crew is impeccable. Every FCC fan needs a little CST in their lives. Thank you, Melly Moshe, for the kind words there. This one's from C. Medi. A great, fun way to keep up all the latest in Cincinnati soccer or off-season. So thank you for that as well. And this last one from P. Swiney. And if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. Great content every week on not only FC Cincinnati, but also USL and soccer as a whole. The rotating hosts always make for a great show and provides great team insight. Highly recommend this podcast or the live version. The only thing better is beating Louisville. Keep it up, gentlemen. Thank you for the iTunes reviews. If you want to leave a review of our show here on iTunes, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/iTunes is where you can do just that. And if you want to support the show and become an armband wearer or be an episode captain like Matt Imholt was tonight, you can go to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. And if you get entered now, that means you're a part of the Growler Cup for 2018. So you won't want to miss that. It's the last show of 2017. So I'm just going to take a few moments to thank everybody involved. I have to thank all the staff here at CST. Every time I list off the names, I always forget somebody. So I'm just going to provide a blanket statement to the guys here at CST. Thank you so much for what you do, the articles, the social media sharing, the Redditing, every single thing that you do for Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I cannot thank you enough for the effort you put in. I really do appreciate it. thank you, the listener, for downloading and watching us live every week. We do this show for you, and we do this show to help build that engagement and get FC Cincinnati, get the word out about FC Cincinnati each and every week. So we thank you for downloading us and listening to us each and every week, whether it's on your commute, at work, working out in the gym. We cannot thank you enough for letting us be a part of your weekly routine. And, of course, we got to thank, I think it's fair and appropriate that I thank our wives. The guys on the Cincinnati Soccer Talk staff, we have to sacrifice quite a bit to do what we love here with CST, and that means sacrificing dinner time with our families or story time with our kids. We have to thank our wives and our families for allowing us to do what we do. So thank you very much for that. What a year 2017 was. It was, I know at the time, in the thick of it, in the middle of the season, we thought it was crappy, but now that we've had a chance to kind of back away and get some space, 2017 was pretty dang cool for FC Cincinnati, and there's more to come. There's no question about it. So on that note, I believe it is time we wrap up episode 97. We're inching ever so close to episode 100. My thanks to Bill Wolf and Boston Brazil for joining us tonight. I wish all of you a happy new year. I'm Subes, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next week.